Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kyle. I just wanted to do a update on my Year to Live practice. So for those of you who don't know, my Year to Live practice is a spiritual practice where we commit to living 1 year as if it was our last year to be alive. So I received my death date as February 28th, 2022, exactly 1 year after I started this practice, and I'm currently on day 54. So the purpose of this practice is to become closer to death in order to live life more fully. I have never experienced so much change in my entire life, and I really have this practice to thank for that. In the beginning, it felt very slow and it was very exciting and everything felt really fresh and new. I had mentioned in a previous video that at the beginning of my practice, I kind of had this approach that day one was almost like a rebirth of myself, that I had the perspective that I had just been sent to Earth and I had a past and I was only living in the present, and I had to use my history and the knowledge that I had in order to live this last year of my life in order to complete my life's purpose. In the beginning, it was very slow. Everything was really new. It was very, just kind of gaining a sense of what's going on and what I had to work with my past. And these past few weeks have been a lot. In the beginning of this practice, I had made a commitment to love and to this practice in order to live my life as fully as possible. And I think by doing that, I also agreed to be as honest as possible. And when you're as honest as possible, a lot of traumas come up. And so for me, these past few weeks, a lot of my traumas that I've carried throughout my life, a lot of my toxic behavior that I've carried has been coming up. And as I've been building my awareness and my consciousness, it's no longer shoving it away or shoving it down, because that doesn't allow me to live my life fully. So as these things come up, as these behaviors that I've never really dealt with before come up, and I start to realize what exactly I'm doing, I am also at the same time confronting that behavior because it doesn't allow me to live my life fully. Whenever I'm engaging in a toxic behavior or falling back into negative self-talk, I am removing myself from the present and going into unconscious autopilot. And when I do that, I'm not living my life fully. So I experience like a weird dissonance happening. And so these past few weeks have just been like practicing every day on accepting myself and allowing myself to be, and reminding myself that it takes time and it's okay to be going through these things. It's just so interesting because there are just so many things happening all at the same time within myself, and then I also have the world around me that I'm interacting with and so much external stimuli. So yeah, just taking it one day at a time is always the best bet. I'm feeling very strong in my routine of practicing yoga and meditation and journaling every day. And that helps keep me grounded every day and reminds me to remember my commitment and continue living in a way that allows me to be my authentic self. So some of the recent thoughts I've had when I've been contemplating death and contemplating dying is definitely a new feeling of sadness. Thinking about the people that I will leave behind next year when I die. And I like have these moments of sadness, and in my head I like see flashes of people that I love, and they're just kind of like smiling and being, and through that sadness a lot of gratitude arises because I feel so grateful for all of the people that are in my life and how much joy and happiness all of these connections bring me. And then in the book A Year to Live, which we're reading at the same time, there was a line in a chapter where he talks about dying as the process of the soul shaking itself away from the body. Through the act of dying, as you're dying, your soul is just trying to let go of the body and move outward. And it just made me think how parallel that is to life. And I feel like right now, as they say, we're technically always dying, every day. We are getting closer to our death no matter when we're gonna die. And as I live, I feel like I am already going through that process of having my soul shake and release itself from the conditions that have been placed on it by the world and by society. And I just see my spirit growing and vibrating so much that all of these old ideas and beliefs and limitations and toxic behaviors and old habits and traumas that have attached themselves to me, I can see how through the process of dying, I am just slowly shaking all of that off in order for my soul to fully express itself. I just thought it was a really interesting parallel between what he says is the act of dying, the process of dying, and how I feel like I'm living every day of my life. During this month, because we're in the second month now, we had the task of doing a lot of soft belly meditations, and through soft belly meditation, that allows for your core to be softer and for things to open up inside of you. And I feel like through these meditations, it just reminded me of my breathing and how we always have our breath to return to, and how we only have so many breaths in this lifetime. There's only so many inhales and so many exhales that we will be able to take. Learning how the breath can not only relax us and soften us, but we can also use it in times where we need strength. So like coming across those moments of sadness or maybe a spark of fear about dying, and using the breath not only to soften, but to remind ourselves of our power, remind ourselves of our grounded firmness and that strength that we have inside of us, that we are going to be able to face these things because we have been facing these things for our entire existence as humans. And paying attention to the breath and coming into the stillness and to the peace of the present moment, and really just feeling the energy of motion all around us, and allowing gratitude to just rise up and express itself through a smile, through a laugh, through tears of gratitude. Those are my favorite types of tears, is tears of gratitude. It's always so fun to cry out of thankfulness and just feeling so whole inside. Another process that I've noticed inside of me over these past few weeks is acceptance versus letting go, and knowing which one to lean into at the proper time, and how to use acceptance and how to use the process of letting go. So for me, acceptance is all about coming into the present moment, seeing reality for what it really is, and not ignoring what is actually happening in front of you. Whereas letting go comes into play when we have stories and we have ideas and we think certain things and we have assumptions about things. So I often find myself creating stories in my head of what people think of me and how how much people love me. And that's the time for me when I lean into the letting go of those ideas, letting go of those false narratives, and coming into the reality and accepting that people do love me, people do care about me, and that I don't have to do any of this on my own. I have plenty of support from my entire community to uplift me and hold me whenever I need. Another thing that's coming up for me very strongly is trying to understand my wants and my needs, and when I want something, whether it's a valid thing to want or if I want it just out of habit, and understanding what my needs are and knowing when to speak my needs out loud and when I can fulfill my own needs on my own terms. So I think when you're living with less than 1 year to go, there's like a desire to like get anything you want whenever you want, but at the same time I like think of the planet and I'm like, oh, I don't want to leave like all this crap behind for anyone to deal with, and what's the point of consuming more or getting more things when I already have enough things. So it's really making me look at what I have already and knowing that everything that I have serves a purpose, and if there are things that I own that don't serve a purpose, that I no longer have space in my life for them. I don't have the mental energy or the physical energy to be dealing with items that don't have a purpose in my life. So falling into this renewed sense of minimalism and not trying to obtain items or anything that is just gonna come and go. Trying to be more intentional about what comes into my life and what has a place here. I remember in our first meeting with A Year to Live, they were talking about how, you know, some people are just gonna fall off, and there's gonna be days where you're not practicing, or maybe even weeks or maybe months that you're gonna miss a class. And I've definitely felt the falling out of it in these past weeks, which is, I have done some vlogging, but none of it really didn't really resonate with me, and so I didn't really want to put it up, and so I kind of just wanted to wait until I had this time to process everything that's been going on. But yeah, I have had moments where I've felt disconnected from the practice, or where dying wasn't even on my mind, and it's like, I don't have time to die right now. I've got other things I have to do, which is so funny because dying will always take precedence over everything else in your life, no matter what you're doing. But I think just the noticing is good enough, you know, and not allowing ourselves to judge how our practice is going, and that if we're falling out, knowing that we can always fall right back in, and we can pick up right where we left off and catch up on the reading if we need to, and carve out more time for more practice in whatever ways that resonate with us in these moments. And yeah, just being more forgiving of not thinking about dying all the time. It's also been very interesting to witness those around me, my friends and my family, kind of taking on this practice in their own way. I had a close friend, who was asking me about the practice and if I want them to take it seriously, or if they want me, or if they want to be like casual about it, or if they can bring it up, or if they shouldn't bring it up. And I told them, you know, just stay true to whatever you feel. If you feel like you want to take it seriously, please take it seriously. But if you don't have to take it seriously. It's fine. And so they were like, oh, I'm going to take it seriously. And then a few moments later, they were like, wait, I don't want you to die. So it's just, it's really interesting and funny and like very sweet to see how other people are taking on this practice in their own lives, and how it does relate to me, but again, they're just separated from me, so they're going through their own thing. I know my mom said something to me that has been in my head, where she said she has to deal with her son dying in a year. And it seems very intense, like, oh, that sounds so hard. But at the same time, I'm really glad that that challenge is being brought to her, because losing a child, there's nothing that even compares, I would think. You know, maybe parents should raise that question to themselves more often, because that's hard, you know, and that's the whole point of this practice, is to think about death and become closer with death and know that it happens to all of us. And, you know, it's who's dying first. We don't know. And we just want to live in a way that allows us to cope with death and not be traumatized by it. Because I think we can easily let ourselves slip into fear and slip into trauma of death and grief and loss and how hard it is, and fall into a really dark space if we're not preparing ourselves for it and thinking of all the possibilities that can happen. So I'm gonna end there. Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please let me know any thoughts that you've had that have come up through this video, if you've had any. Yeah, we'll talk soon. Bye.